It was the first time I ever saw Nick talk shit. It was the first fight with Robbie Lawler. Robbie was dangerous. So Nick took that shit talking to DEFCON 5.
Fighting out of Stockton, California, please welcome Nick Diaz!
And he got into the octagon. And the first thing he does, he gets into the octagon, he looks over at Robbie, he goes, "Stockton, motherfucker! Stockton!" And he starts walking around, "Stockton, mother..." And Robbie's like, what the fuck is he talking about?
He's very skilled, a fantastic grappler, unbelievable boxing, insane cardio. He's got all the things that could give a lot of guys problems in the welterweight division.
He's a fascinating guy. I'm fascinated by him. I've been in this business forever. I mean, I've been in this business forever. I've dealt with every guy you can possibly deal with. And this kid is fascinating, you know? I don't want to give you a Nick Diaz answer on this one. I want to give you something. You ask him questions, he knows the answer. But
I do. This isn't a joke. I'm not staging a little act. This is not for fun. This is not a side thing. This is all I got. So this is all I got to work with.
My brother is responsible for anything I've even done at all. You know, he's the one that is like, it's crazy what he's done and how he did everything, because he just knew what he was gonna do.
The guy's still doing triathlons. It's not like a lot of times what happens is when a guy leaves for a while, you know, they don't work out and they don't do anything for a few years. And they might go in the gym and mess around, but they're not training at that level. This kid's a world-class athlete, you know?
When Nick Diaz changed the game in terms of his elite cardio, he did something that was a new thing. And that new thing was, he's not gonna hit you with 100% power. He's going to hit you with 50%, but he's going to hit you twice as much and you're never going to get to breathe. And he's going to stay on top of you and he's going to talk to you the whole time. So he's going to fuck with you psychologically. He's going to disrupt your breathing by constantly hitting you. And then once he realizes you're hurt, then he's digging to the body. Then he's putting it on you.
Today, we will talk about the older brother of Nate Diaz, who has been in his shadow for a very long time until he became famous thanks to the fight with Conor McGregor. We will recall the path of older Diaz, who made this last name famous all over the world, because it was him who gave the industry of mixed martial arts to incredible fighters, himself and his brother. Together, we will go through all the stages of Nick Diaz's career, who can be rightfully called the godfather of early MMA. Please don't forget about the likes, comments with 4 words, and subscribe to the channel. Here we go. Childhood and early years.
Go ahead, talk.
Camera off me, man. Come on.
Nah, it's on you. What are you gonna say? Come on, you gotta be quick. Think of something.
I don't like Nick Diaz.
Why don't you like Nick Diaz?
He's a dick.
What do you gotta say about him?
He's a crazy motherfucker.
He's a crazy motherfucker. You think you could beat his ass? Come on.
Nah.
Nickolas Robert Diaz was born on August 2nd of 1983 in the city of Stockton, California. He has Mexican and English roots. The guy's childhood was rather tough. He has a younger brother Nate and sister Nina, who for the most part were raised by their single mother Melissa, because the father abandoned the family early. It just so happened that the older child chose the sports almost from the very beginning. He was a very quarrelsome kid and often got in different incidents both in school and in the stern streets of Stockton. So, at a very young age, Nick decided to do sports and callous himself both mentally and physically to be able to oppose all challenges which awaited him at every corner. From his early years, Diaz began doing karate and aikido, and also participated in wrestling competitions when he was a teenager.
I mean, karate, they teach you some good basic shit, you know? They teach you how to have a strong stance, they teach you little blocking, how you're supposed to block even, or, you know, they're having you break shit, hit shit, make noises when you hit. Yeah, that's crazy. That teaches you how to hit. And then people when they're 20, they try to do that and they can't do it now. But the other people when they're like, they did a little bit of karate when they were a kid, now they can just do that. They just go right back to it. Yeah, I've done this before. I'm like, it's like, you know.
Besides that, he attended Tokai School in the city of Lodi, California, but dropped out in less than a year. Overall, this guy did not really get along with educational facilities from the very beginning, mostly because it was influenced by his environment. Diaz brothers were surrounded by hooligans, simply speaking, and to adapt to a hostile environment, they had to wear a mask of the same hooligans to oppose evil, as smugly as it may sound.
Like a hardcore guy when I'm not so hardcore in a hardcore school. So it was just no fitting in anywhere. What happened was, you know, I'd end up in these confrontations all the time because I was gonna fight with this kid, and all his friends were like, "Hey, well, you're gonna fight this guy. You're gonna fight Justin. You're gonna." And I'd be like, "Hey, f you." You know what I mean? Because they think it's funny, or they're talking, or someone will come up and be like, "Yeah, you're gonna fight Justin Acello. He's gonna whoop your ass." And I'd be like, "Yeah, f you. I'm gonna whoop your ass." And then next thing you know, oh, you with that dude, you mess with that dude. Now you're gonna, this is so and so. So now I got problems with this dude. I got problems with this dude. So I'm just, high school was hard time. High school was hard times.
During his first year in college, our hero added swimming to his activities and became a member of one of the local teams. On top of that, he started training Sambo under the supervision of the champion of Bulgaria, Valery Ignatov. Around that time, his desire to grow and get better in this discipline motivated him to put his sights on the ground game aspects. After watching one of Renzo Gracie's performances in the legendary Pride, Nick got inspired to try himself in the mixed style. He began training under the supervision of Steve Heath in the Animal House Gym before he joined the team of the Great Gracie clan.
Immediately they consider me dangerous. They're like, you hit this guy and you drew blood from him and you cut him and you are dangerous and we can't have you on campus. And I'm like, I was attacked. And that's all I can think about. Like, I didn't even start this,
The sport helped Nick Diaz not only to strengthen his body and mind and give him an ability to stand up for himself, but also get distracted from the nasty and toxic environment which was constantly testing him. Mixed martial arts were hardening the spirit of the young Stocktonian who learned a simple truth from childhood. Nobody was going to save him, and only he could be responsible for his future life and its direction. It was easy to go with the flow, deal with the bad company, and truly become a regular hooligan upstart with criminal tendencies, and there were a lot of such in Stockton of that period, and even now, but our hero was resisting that. He figured that he was destined to become a fighter from his childhood. He was left with nothing but a day-to-day struggle, and he needed to keep fighting no matter what. Especially given the fact that the sport with total commitment provides big prospects, and big prospects will inevitably lead the dedicated person to great heights. Perhaps Nick did not realize all of that the way we word it right now, but subconsciously his body and spirit were striving to self-fulfillment through martial arts, and he didn't need anything else at that point in time.
He was always told he wasn't good enough. He was always told he's not going to make it. He was always told you don't belong here, and you're not one of these rich kids. And when he fights, I think he does bring some of that back. And unfortunately for his adversary, that's where that energy goes.
Nick Diaz did not know what a good life was. As well as his family, his mother worked 3 jobs to barely have an opportunity to feed 3 children. His brother and sister were going with the flow and growing up in a dangerous environment which wanted to hurt them at every step. Overall, there weren't a lot of good things. That's why he didn't even hesitate when choosing the discipline which eventually was supposed to bring order in his life. He wasn't bothered with existential and philosophical questions, why is it happening to me, and stuff like that. Our hero simply accepted the cards he was dealt from childhood and moved in the direction of what promised to improve his life and existence of his close ones.
In order to love fighting, I have to hate it. There's no love in this without hate. You gotta love it, so you want it so bad that you're pushing yourself to those limits to where you just simply hate it. And if you ain't there to where you hate it, then good luck trying to love this.
After countless hours in the gym, hard work at his limits, and constant progress, Nick Diaz made a decision to fight for real and make money off of it. Professional sport.
I have people come up to me and try to shake my hand and smile at me, and they try to wish me good luck. Why are you going to have good luck for, why are you going to say,
like, good luck to me. I'm gonna come, you know, and try to wreck you tomorrow, you know, and then you're gonna do me, and it's just, no, I don't want you to have good luck, dude, you know?
In fact, before debuting in the higher league, for some time our hero participated in unsanctioned MMA fights without gloves. He managed to become professional in 2001, right after he turned 18. On August 31st, older Diaz appeared at IFC Warrior Challenge event, where in the fight at 155 pounds, he beat Mike Wick via triangle in the first round. Unfortunately, there is no recording of this fight on the internet, but we have to mention it. The next fight of our hero took place 11 months later. Nick debuted in the welterweight division of the same league and fought for the local championship against Chris Little. By that time, the American veteran already had experience performing in many organizations, including the UFC. In comparison to the young and inexperienced Diaz, he looked a lot more favorable, at least that's what he thought himself. So he quickly went for an attack and began pressuring our hero in hopes to break his focus and will win. However, Chris did not know who he was sharing the octagon with. He was met with such resistance from an 18-year-old he didn't even expect until he ran into troubles. Diaz was moving forward and doing his best at all levels, constantly applying pressure to his vis-a-vis and trying to do as much damage as possible. Nick was giving everything he had in terms of striking and actively utilized ground game, searching for an early victory. But by fate's will, the fight went to a decision, in the conclusion of which the Stocktonian got the victory.
2-1, it is Nick Diaz.
After conquering the local championship, Nick Diaz moved further. By the end of September, he was offered to participate at the Ultimate Athletes King of the Mountain one-day tournament, which implied multiple fights in one night. The first one in the way of our hero happened to be Blaine Tyler. The bigger part of the first round was about both fighters trying to find a weak spot of the opponent on the ground. Of course, Nick looked better in that regard, as he was constantly searching for a submission or a choke.
He kicks over. Nick was waiting for it.
Look at that.
Full on. Boy, that is one tough guy.
However, he failed to find it in the first round, and the fight went to the second. This time, Diaz did not need the entire round because he got the job done in 2 minutes.
Looking to get him down again. Nice left hand again.
Another
nice combo.
After breaking Tyler down in the stand-up, he took him to the ground where he finished him by a TKO.
He's not. There it is.
There it is.
Dean Stephanie's good call. Stop it.
The first victory in the one-day tournament was successfully earned. A bit later that night, he faced a fighter named Adam Lin. He clashed with our hero in the semi-finals of the event and tried to impose his will with striking. However, to his misfortune, Diaz happened to be ready for everything he had, including the mix of striking and takedowns. Perhaps due to a hurry and a desire to save as much energy as possible, Lin lost focus when he took Diaz to the ground, because his willingness to find a finish led him to being stopped himself. The Stocktonian quickly grabbed his hand and made him surrender with a tight armbar.
Defends. Nick's going for a triangle. Nope. Triangle on. Very nice. Quick.
And in the finale of this event, our hero shared the ring with Jeremy Jackson. Unfortunately, it appeared that the previous two performances on that night affected our hero more than they did Jackson, because the guy looked fresher and faster than the Stocktonian Gangster, who was knocked down twice in the span of a minute and lost via TKO for the first time in his professional career.
Jeremy's got that heavy left.
Another.
Nick is down.
Josh, there we go. Josh, that's a good call, Josh.
Sad and upsetting, but that's okay. Either way, it didn't stop Diaz and only motivated him to get better. On October 24th, Nick finished Harris Sarmiento at Warriors Quest 8 after the fighter's corner did not allow him to continue receiving damage from the enraged Stocktonian. Unfortunately, we couldn't find the recording of this fight either, but best believe Diaz did not leave his opponent any chances to survive. On December the 14th, the prospect traveled to Japan to fight Kuniyoshi Hironaka. He couldn't close the year of 2002 with a win. Let's just say it as it is. The Japanese fighter gave the young and rising athlete a very tough fight, making him resist more than attacking and imposing his style for the bigger part of the fight. Though we have to mention that closer to the end of the third round, Nick had decent chances to get the victory. He was in a dominant position on the ground, hammering Hironaka's face and later taking his back. Who knows how this night would have ended if Diaz had a little bit more time. But everybody had equal terms except for the fact that the crowd was universally supporting their favorite, and thus the Stocktonian suffered his second career loss, this time by a split decision. Our hero started the year of 2003 with a fight that happened on March the 27th. Back then, the older Diaz took an opportunity to contest the WEC Championship, which at that time had been putting on rather big and highly attended events in the United States for more than 3 years. Yes, it was this very promotion out which many stars eventually transitioned to the UFC, who after a couple of years would gain leverage and begin conquering the entire MMA market. So the opponent of Nick Diaz happened to be Joe Hurley. To be honest, the poor guy was unlucky from the very start. The Stocktonian quickly found his chin and put him down. Eventually, he developed his success on the ground and went for the finish. Diaz needed less than 2 minutes to make Hurley surrender with a Kimura and become the new WEC welterweight champion.
Nick Diaz.
Congratulations to Nick Diaz.
On July the 19th, our hero got an opportunity to avenge his loss to Jeremy Jackson and also defend his IFC championship in Warriors Challenge. Now, Diaz was as ready as never before. Knowing about his vis-a-vis great striking skills, he searched for every opportunity to get in close range, clinch, and subsequent takedowns, which messed with Jackson's focus and broke him in the literal sense of the word. As a result, closer to the end of the first round, Nick got to full mount, where he beat the crap out of Jeremy and scored another TKO victory.
It's nice to meet you, by the way. You know? Last time I was a little swirly. Which one is it? This one right here? No, that's a good one, huh? Yeah. Fuck, dude, I trained hard. I trained as hard as I could for it. I ain't know if I was going to be able to get you down. How'd you guys
Path to the UFC.
And I respect Diaz too. You know, Diaz is the kind of kid who's like, you know, he's pretty honest about it. I don't like all the bullshit and I don't want to do all this and that, but I'll show up and fight. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. But I respect it. I respect those guys. They're real fighters.
By that moment, the major league, striving to become the best in the world, was acquired by the Fertitta brothers and led by Dana White. They quickly figured that to promote their brand, they needed young, hungry, cocky, and promising talents who would carry the organization and popularize the sport to the masses. Young Nick Diaz fit this exact description, as he had already had time to draw attention with a couple of spectacular performances. By September of 2003, the company's representatives rolled out the 44th event, where they put our hero against Jeremy Jackson for the third time, letting these guys finish their trilogy inside the UFC. This time, the fighters were so prepared that they managed to oppose each other till the third round, but the Stocktonian happened to be better, as he caught Jackson in an armbar already in the second minute and made him tap, taking 2 out of 3 fights in this rivalry.
I just want to thank everybody who helped me train for this fight. I want to thank Zuffa, Dana White here, and the UFC for making my dreams come through. And I also like to thank Jeremy Jackson for taking the fight with me back in July. I know I didn't have to do that. And he's an awesome fighter.
It has been half a year since Nick Diaz debuted in a major promotion. The matchmakers were not setting him on an easy path towards greatness, so in the next outing they threw the prospect under the young, prime and extremely dangerous Robbie Lawler, who at that time was already seen as a menace with bombs in his hands and an unbreakable spirit. This fight took place on April 2nd of 2004 at UFC 47.
We're doing a thing on Ultimate Knockouts here. Let's just talk about the art of the KO. I know you're not a KO guy, but I don't know.
How do you know that?
Well, that's what it says.
Oh,
maybe you're gonna prove everyone wrong tonight and knock Robbie Lawler flat on his face.
This fight happened to be one of the most remarkable in the history of the league and sport in general. Nick Diaz showed his style in all of its beauty for the first time. He literally bullied the Berserk in the octagon, made him lose his cool and sent him into oblivion in the beginning of the second round. Classic, timeless classic.
Yeah, well, I box. I do a lot of boxing. I try to sell it, just because it says jiu-jitsu on my clothes, I'm a fighter, I fight. Before I ever started doing jiu-jitsu, I got in fights in school. I didn't do good in school, you know what I mean? So, I don't have a job now. This is what I do. I fight, and if I don't get paid fighting, then, or if I don't get this done fighting, then I'm pretty shit out of luck. So I'm gonna have to do it right. And I train hard. I've been boxing before my fights. I've been boxing like 8 rounds a day. Like a Sav. I would get up in the morning, I run my ass, and then I go and I box 8 rounds, and then I go and I train, do 5-minute rounds with my brother and everybody else. I got good people to train with too, and I train hard. I make sure I train harder than everybody I train with too. So if you want to come down, you want to train with me, and you think you can train harder than I can, you can come down. We train. We'll see who trains harder, and you know what I mean? It's my life. It's what I do.
After 2 subsequent finishes inside the UFC, Nick Diaz showed himself as a determined and brutal warrior who wouldn't stop at anything until he reached his goals. And the next challenge for him was the judoka Karo Parisian. It was August of 2004 and the 49th event.
I think it's kind of a bad matchup for me in a way. But you just gotta work through it, do what you gotta do. And I've been working on a lot of things for this fight, so see what I can do. I'm doing my best.
Unfortunately, the Stocktonian's institution did not let him down. Parisian really managed to force such a fight on him that in the end our hero lost by a split decision. However, it didn't stop him from coming back in February of 2005 with a TKO victory over Drew Fickett. And already in June at the 53rd event, he put on a battle with the Japanese Koji Oishi. I want to show my best, knock him out with strikes, or find a weakness in his defense, but either way, I want a knockout. Oishi couldn't last against older Diaz even 1.5 minutes from the start of the fight. Signature boxing combinations of Nick did not leave him any chances to survive, which led to his unconditional knockout victory in the very first round and a flashy highlight.
Diaz, where is he? Thanks for coming, Nick. Nick, I think, is one of the best up-and-coming 170-pounders. We've got that division is very stacked. Very tough guy, well-rounded. He is one of the guys, like when I talk about Georges St. Pierre, I also think of Nick Diaz. Back in the day, it was a kickboxer versus a grappling guy. It was this guy and that guy. These are the kind of athletes I'm talking about that are mixed martial artists. They can do everything. He's great at submissions, he's awesome on his feet, and he's a rising star. Nick Diaz is one of these kids that I'm talking about that I'm going to start premiering on Ultimate Fight Night. Nick Diaz will be the kind of guy that I'm talking about that will be a main event on this live fight. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Diaz.
As soon as Nick seemingly stepped on the path to the top, life instantly put him down to earth in the fights with Diego Sanchez, Joe Riggs and Sean Shirk, who beat him by points and gave the Stocktonian 3 consecutive losses on his record by decisions. All of that happened in the span of 6 months, from November of 2005 to April of 2006, but the situation is unpleasant nevertheless.
Little guy though, man, I don't know what the he was doing some karate in there. He's doing, doing some crazy super punch shit. It's a little bit different, you know. I don't know what that was. That wasn't boxing skills though. I mean, dude, you know, he knows how to box. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to knock his boxing. He's actually a little boxer for, you know, for a little Japanese guy, but you know, he's doing some little Hadouken fucking punch in there to me, you know, or you know, he's knocking people out, fucking busting their shit up. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what the fuck did that.
Either way, it didn't affect the mindset of our hero and his future performance in the fighting game. At first, older Diaz competed in international cage fighting where he dismantled Ray Steinbeis, and on August 26, he came back into the octagon to share it with Josh Neer at UFC 62. The veteran couldn't break the spirit of a young warrior and lost via Kimura in the third round, which happened to be a triumphal submission of the night from Nick on that summer's evening. On November 18th, UFC presented its 65th event, where they put the rising star from Stockton against the highly promising Brazilian Gleison Tibau.
If I could fight every month, I'd be ready to fight every month because I'm always ready to fight, and that's what I'm doing. That's full time. There's no breaks or vacations for me.
Legendary Nick Diaz ran over the Brazilian fighter and already by the middle of the second round completely destroyed him. 20th professional fight in the career of the Stocktonian brought him a convincing victory by a TKO.
We're trying to get a stoppage. I knew I wasn't that desperate for one. He did crank on my arm a little bit, so I didn't know how my arm was. Like I said, I didn't get warmed up as good as I should have coming out, so I wasn't too sure of myself in the first round, but I started feeling better toward the end of that first round.
Further career.
Them not having like a pride show right now or whatever, especially with these pride rules in a ring. I don't know what's going on with that, but I want to see some more events with the same exact pride rules and the same pride ring. You know, because this is what makes me enthusiastic about fighting. Is fighting being fighting, not this cage battle. They got all the best fighters in the world now fighting in the cage. You know, with elbows. It's a big dirty, you know, cage can, you know, battle out, you know. It's like strongest guy wins.
Though the fight with Tibau was the last one on Nick Diaz's contract in the UFC, and the organization assured him that after it expired, they would sign a new deal, our hero decided to move on. By February of 2007, he already transitioned to another league, being a free agent for some time. The Stocktonian decided to try himself in the legendary Pride. Given the fact that Nick's name was already famous in the fighting game, the Japanese company offered him a fight with the current lightweight champion, Takanori Gomi, at the 33rd event. Just in case, we will add that the fight itself wasn't for the title. To strengthen the status of the event, they opted to mention that Takanori was the champion and he was set to welcome the Stockton's impudent son, having the Pride's belt on his waist.
I consider it a great honor to have been selected to fight in the Pride FC, and I'm feeling great, so I'm ready to fight, and thank you.
There was a rather curious situation in the fight between Diaz and Gomi. Let's start with the fact that our hero beat him by a go-go platter and kind of successfully broke into the new organization. However, everything wasn't that simple.
Said 10 days
You can
out.
do it, yes, but he has no body fat and he does so much cardio that he doesn't even let it get to the cells.
But the only time that he didn't do that was the Gomi fight. He tested positive for the Gomi fight, and they said there was so much weed in his system when they tested him that he had to be high when he was fighting. So what he did was just get ripped, just completely ripped, and then went out there and fought Takanori Gomi and just outboxed him.
Can you imagine that?
So here's the deal. On April 10th of 2007, the Nevada State Athletic Commission announced that Nick Diaz failed a drug test which was taken not long before his victory over the Japanese fighter. The Stocktonian's test was positive for marijuana metabolites. NSAC ruled the fighter no contest and suspended the performer for 6 months, arguing that Diaz's test result for THC was too high and it couldn't help but affect his performance in the ring. The fighter himself denied the fact that he consumed the substance to have an easier way in the actual fight. Nonetheless, The terms of his suspension came to an end, and that meant that it was time for another run in the mixed style. Our hero signed the contract with EliteXC, debuting at their event on September the 15th. His opponent was Mike Einer. In the span of 3 rounds, the guys were giving everything they had in their arsenal and tirelessly traded shots that could have broken any fighter on planet Earth. This fight had everything: tension, escalation, blood, and hatred.
Trying to rattle the cage, and he rocks Nick Diaz!
Absolutely everything. But in the end of all this action, the judges picked the winner in the face of our hero, who showed that no suspension could affect his focus and physical condition.
Well, I don't like to make excuses, you know what I mean? Well, no, first off, I can say that everybody here on the island, really tough, you know, everybody, this guy right here, he's so tough, you know. But that's not, you know, the thing for me too was, I think in my head, you know, was that's what kind of happens, you know, when you don't know about your opponent and who you're fighting. I kind of got in here today and I couldn't really decide how I was going to go about beating this guy. I should have spent most of my energy trying to probably get the clinch and get the takedown. I knew I could probably pick him apart standing up on my feet though, but I did switch it back and forth.
One victory at the new place was more than enough for Nick Diaz to contest the EliteXC Lightweight Championship. 2 months later, on November the 10th, the Stocktonian shared the octagon with KJ Noons.
No, don't be scared, homie.
Okay, first of all, and all we can say is next time.
Again, living up to his reputation as the bad boy of mixed martial arts, the Diaz brothers, Public Enemy's #1 in Hawaii.
Before the start of the action, it was evident that our hero was extremely charged up to get the victory. He passionately wanted to scrap and was ready to jump straight into it as soon as the referee started the fight. And that's exactly what he did. The only problem was that his game plan was too obvious for his opponent. KJ Noons clearly knew that Diaz wanted to take him down and find a victory on the ground, in his realm. And Nick himself was not really willing to exchange with the American fighter in the stand-up. He used his boxing only for the sake of distracting him from takedown attempts, and that was the biggest mistake of the Stocktonian. Noons was not willing to wrestle on that night. That's why he masterfully evaded all the takedowns and tried to batter his vis-a-vis face as frequently as possible. Soon, it led to a number of serious cuts on Nick Diaz's face, which caused him problems throughout the entire first round.
He's been here before. A veteran, and he gets tagged with that right hand.
In the end, the referee made a decision to not let our hero continue and awarded the TKO victory to the opponent of the older Diaz. The Stocktonian was enraged with such a decision and immediately went backstage. On his way out of the arena, he showed middle fingers to all the staff in attendance and, being furious, pushed one of the cameramen in the corridor because he was upset and wanted to keep fighting, but he wasn't given such an opportunity.
Cut I had was real small, and you know, they wasted no time, just stopped the fight right there. They didn't even put a flashlight in my eye or nothing. You know, I just don't think that's fair, you know, that the way that went before, and I just want my fair shot, you know.
Only by May of 2008 did Nick Diaz manage to restrain his demons and return to performing. He tried his luck in the Japanese promotion Dream, where he faced a fighter named Katsuya Inoue. The organization's rules were exactly the same as in the good old Pride. Every round was 10 minutes long, during which the fighters could act as they pleased, within the limits of what was permitted.
Yeah, and Inoue said he wanted to do the ground and pound. It looks
The Stocktonian did a great job and stopped his opponent in 6 minutes and 45 seconds from the start of the bout.
Diaz. Oh, there's the towel thrown in. It's over.
My jiu-jitsu coach and my team, Cesar Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, for helping me train for this fight. Really good. I want to thank my corner, Randy Spence, Nate Diaz. And I want to also thank Gary Shaw for providing me with the opportunity to come here and showcase my skills to the world. I'll fight anybody you got. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready to rock, so bring it on.
By the middle of June, the Stocktonian fighter returned to the EliteXC to avenge his last loss in this promotion in the title fight. His opponent was Musin Kobre. This fighter was even less lucky than Katsuya, because Diaz was torturing for a lot longer. In the first round, he took him to school of versatile MMA mastery.
Paying dividends, and now they're beginning to.
Then he solidified his success in the next one with even worse consequences.
Boxing match. Now Nick Diaz begins to stepping it up. Now puts together a combination. Even in the earliest signs of trouble, now spins Kobre to the ground.
And finally, in the third round, it was all over closer to the last minute of the fight. Nick got on top of his opponent and hammered his head with countless strikes until the referee stepped in.
One from Nick Diaz.
Got a minute left.
And the fight has been stopped. Nick Diaz.
The Stocktonian dragged his opponent to deep waters and did not leave him any chances to survive. That was one of the fights which made us fall in love with Diaz. He was capable of fighting at the same pace for 1, 3, or even 25 rounds in a row, and he never stepped away from the set goal, to kill or be killed. Only that and nothing else.
You know, the guy's a good guy, he's a tough guy, you know, he's real confident. That's what was doing it for him. That's what was discouraging me the whole time, was this guy's confidence. I'm like, you aren't any good, dude, but, you know.
I mean, he looked good.
Oh no, he stayed tough, and when I hit him with everything, you know, I couldn't quite set up a good shot because he just, you know, he was tough. You know, I couldn't. He kept moving in his weird little awkward and then turning in little circles. If it was a boxing ring, though, I'd have cut him off and put him on the ropes and threw a lot more punches. So if it was a boxing fight, it would have been a lot easier for me. It was, it's MMA fight, and you're watching out for elbows in there.
The last performance of Nick Diaz inside this organization happened on July the 26th. Or more so, the Stocktonian decided to return to the lightweight to try himself there. His opponent was a rather eccentric individual, Thomas Denny, and the fighters were welcomed in our hero's hometown.
California is my hometown, and I'm happy to be, you know, fighting here and represent Pacific Coast Martial Arts, you know, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I was actually real competitive swimming when I was a kid. I didn't think it was as cool to be a swimmer, so I stopped swimming in high school. I started training jiu-jitsu.
Diaz looking for the armbar.
2 years later, a friend of mine, he was like, hey, you want to do a triathlon? You know, so I was like, yeah. I think it's an excellent workout. It makes my kicks really strong. Thomas Denning is, you know, really a tough opponent. I doubt he works as hard as me in the gym. I mean, to come on real strong and put him down the first round.
Sure, Nick Diaz couldn't do what he promised.
Quick punch followed by an elbow by Diaz. Wow! Great action here. Nick Diaz, wild man, just stopped him.
This is MMA on prime time. What a round!
But he didn't really fail to achieve his initial goal and finished Thomas Denny after 30 seconds into the second round. The Stocktonian exploded and fed his opponent a series of powerful combinations with so many shots that he couldn't withstand it.
Oh my goodness, Denny in trouble. Diaz punches in bunches. Left hand sends Denny down. Pop round. And it's over.
And the eruption begins.
Earning the victory not only for himself, but also his hometown and the fans at the arena.
I'd like to dedicate this performance tonight, this whole night, and everything to a few friends of mine that passed away. First off, a special girl, very special girl in my life, named Stephanie Wise. Okay.
Eventually, the new MMA organization appeared on the market and acquired EliteXC. It was called Strikeforce. These guys bought the entire promotion and all of its fighters, so to say. By April of 2009, they thought that it would be fun to watch the fight between Stockton's impudent son and a renowned veteran and a legend of this sport, Frank Shamrock. If you didn't know, Frank is a great fighter and a legend of the 90s and 2000s. He was the UFC light heavyweight champion with 4 title defenses and eventually left the promotion without a single defeat inside of it. By the time he was offered the fight with the Stocktonian, the veteran already had time to become the Strikeforce middleweight champion and lose the title in the very first defense. And as history taught us, the fight against Diaz in the main event happened to be the last one for him.
Say what's up, you know. Just wanted to say thank you, you know, for bringing me here, Strikeforce, Showtime. You know, I'm happy to be representing Cesar Gracie here, and Jake Shields, Gilbert Melendez, the rest of my team here, Nate Diaz, you know. Everybody who's on my team, and you know, I'm feeling confident. You know, Frank's too small for this weight class. He's got a, you know, little guy complex. Nowadays, people cut weight, fight at their own weight. So, you know, see if he can cut it nowadays.
There wasn't a lot of kids like me. I was always boxing in the backyard. I was the only one maybe every day thinking about fighting. I was, you know, just had fighting issues, wonder who can kick whose ass. I'm like Frank Shamrock with better boxing and jiu-jitsu. I'd have to not like myself to not like him.
The upcoming event was huge. It took place in San Jose on the home soil of Frank Shamrock, and his clash with Nick Diaz was truly mind-blowing because the Stocktonian brutally dominated the veteran and viciously finished him already closer to the end of the second round.
Yes, it was very unacceptable to lose when I know I put in that much hard work. I just knew that, you know, that hard work had to pay off somewhere. I knew that I did the right type of training, you know, and I got to be able to put my faith in the technical aspect of this, not just on, you know, on the stronger fighter or the you know, the luck or I don't know, what have you. I train with better people, you know. I always have. I don't dodge anybody, you know. I'm gonna come and set up sparring, you know, we could probably set up some sparring and get it done.
The winning streak of Nick Diaz continued to get bigger. By June of 2009, he entered the cage to go to war with another former UFC fighter, Scott Smith. To no surprise, the action was dynamic and incredibly spectacular. After all, it's Nick Diaz we're talking about, and what else would you expect from him? In fact, through this flow of mutilation and pain, he found the victory over Scott via submission choke in the third round.
I'm just ready to, you know, it's hard, you know, because I can talk shit out of my mouth. It's gonna make me look like a bad guy. I might not give me a fight, so it makes me want to just go, hey, you know, I'm just scared to fight me.
You know, so I didn't mean, you know, be so rude out there and look all, you know, porcelain, however you say it. Where I just I know that I don't like fighting people I know, and I don't appreciate people I know signing to fight me.
After that, the Stocktonian wanted to fight before the end of the year at least 2 times. However, he couldn't do that due to positive test results for the same substance that starts with the letter M. That's why Strikeforce targeted his return only for January of 2010. But it was worth the wait, because the event that took place in Miami was supposed to give the world of combat sports the new welterweight champion in the organization. And the gold was contested by our hero and a decorated fighter from Lithuania, Marius Saromskis.
No, we're gonna have to get in there and fight and see, you know, how that goes. But I don't know, you know. A lot of these guys just knocked him out, and you know, they like to walk backwards, and I don't walk backwards. I don't know if he can get me backing up and then throw the kick. So we'll just have to see how it goes, you know. I'm sure he's, you know, he's a great fighter. I've seen him fight, you know. So, but anybody I'm going to be fighting right now is going to be that top level. So it doesn't really matter who I fight right now. I feel like everybody's really, you know, evenly matched.
Who could have thought that the title between 2 warriors on winning streaks wouldn't go out of the first round? But it is what it is, and it's the new Strikeforce welterweight champion in the face of Nick Diaz.
No, I knew he was going to probably run and jump at me, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, so I prepared for that. I prepared for everything. If I worked hard, my trainer here, Richard Perez, worked hard with my trainer. You know, he knows what to do to keep my punches up. And, you know, keep me training hard.
Were you worried about his striking at all?
Well, sure, what the fuck, he's knocking 3 people out, you know? What are you doing there?
Were you surprised at how much damage he took before he went down?
No.
Well, thank you.
I think he could have took that shit all day, but until I started hitting him in the body, he can't breathe. I could hear him not breathing. He wasn't breathing good. After I hit him in the body, he made the, you know.
On May the 29th, our hero decided to travel to Japan once again to fight at the famous Saitama Super Arena. At Dream 14, Nick Diaz went up against Hayato Sakurai.
I don't feel like it's really been that long. That's a long time. But yeah, I feel good. It's a little disappointing that it's gonna be in a cage and not a ring. I enjoy fighting here in Japan under the you know, the regular Dream Pride rules. You know, like with the ring and the, you know, the whole rules, the criteria, and everything. You know, same rules, but unfortunately, you know, you guys switched it around. But you know, I usually fight in a cage anyway, so it's not any different for me.
Actually, despite the fact that the fight did not last for too long, in Nick's standards, based on the previous performances in Japan, the guys had a great showing and tested each other's toughness at the highest level possible. Already closer to the 4th minute of the first round, Diaz found a victory over his vis-a-vis with an armbar and earned his 7th consecutive win by a stoppage.
I was working on countering a big hook, you know, that he throws. I watch all his fights. He throws the hook really hard. He likes to throw that, move his head, and then throw it real hard. But it seemed like he wasn't going to throw it at me until he was going to hit me with it. So, you know, he punches hard, and he's a really good stand-up striker. I knew that, though. I know that, you know, it's not like he didn't surprise me with it, because I knew I was probably going to end up getting hit with something like that. I also knew that he was going to take me down, or he was going to try to take me down, and I think that he is a really experienced, really good fighter, and I think he has a little bit more to offer to the sport before he's done. I don't think that he should call it quits right now.
After that, Strikeforce promotion offered their welterweight champion to have the first title defense. The best candidate for the role was none other than KJ Noons. If you remember, 3 years earlier, he opened a cut on the Stocktonian's face in the title fight inside EliteXC, due to which the latter wasn't allowed to continue. And now it was time for a historic rematch in the main event of the evening on October 9th.
Yeah, I was real angry at the time. I felt like it was an inexperienced doctor that stopped the fight. If you watch my brother's last fight, they didn't stop that fight. It was a really large cut over that guy's eye. And, you know, that's just for example, you know, that happens all the time. They don't stop fights. Most of the title fights, usually they really don't stop it on account of that. And this first round, you know, I was going on top, I was coming forward. It's not like I was ever hurt and running. So, yeah, you know, I was really upset about that.
The doctor took one look at me and signaled somebody, and I could see, you know, I could see well enough to jump the fence, and I was angry because I wasn't done fighting. I think KJ is a good fighter because he's good about, you know, putting his punches in and not getting taken down. There's no quit in this game, otherwise I never would have made it this far. It's just the way it is.
This time, Diaz was a lot more prepared because he was ready for all 25 minutes of intense war, which eventually ended on his terms. A unanimous decision victory in favor of Nick, and the first successful defense of the welterweight championship.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to my old sparring partner Rodney Jones and SOG Andre Ward. Thank you for giving me the sparring, the work I need to bring it out here. And I want to thank my little brother Nathan Diaz for always being there for me, and Jake Shields and Gil.
All that's said and done, you know, no disrespect, but I feel like, you know, my skill level is way higher standing up and on the ground, but it's a gamble, you know, like, you know, back and forth. That's what the problem is, you know. So, you know, it's like, okay, should I try to finish with punches, or since I got him down here, should I try to? That indecisiveness is my main problem, which makes this guy sort of a tough matchup for me. I think, you know, like I said, no disrespect or anything, but I feel that I would win the jiu-jitsu match, you know. I mean, if it was a jiu-jitsu match, I won on the points.
In the end of January of 2011, our hero was offered to defend his Strikeforce championship for the second time. Now he was up against an experienced and dangerous Brazilian cyborg, Evangelista Santos.
Like, I put this first, in front of a lot of people, and it it really takes its toll, and that's what I'm saying. I put in a lot, but I'm not getting much back out of this. I'll never get back what I lost. Like from training and as much as I put into this, but at least I got a good job though.
You get a lot of free time. You get to do a lot of stuff.
You get paid well enough. I mean, I'd like to be able to drive nice cars and buy my girlfriend's mom a new Mercedes or something like that. But I can't do that sort of thing.
How was your training camp for this fight?
I don't call it a training camp. I don't know where this MMA term came from. This camp. There's no campground. There was no tents, and it was like, there's always a fighter on my team that has a fight. If it's not me, then it's my brother. Hopefully we're not having fights 2 weeks, or like a month apart. It works. What I mean is I got so many fighters at the Cesar Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Academy.
Yep.
That there's always training. There's always, training camp, if you will. It's not a camp. This is where everybody lives. They train there, and they're there for practice. It doesn't disperse and then come back like how everybody else's shit does. And they start calling, hey, will you come to my camp? And then shit doesn't go right. You ain't gonna get that going, every fight.
The undisputed welterweight champion couldn't be stopped by the Brazilian MMA school, which essentially was supposed to be based on the ground game, at least from a classic standpoint, so Cyborg lost to our hero in the end of the second round via tight armbar.
Just stupid stuff, I don't want to sit here and complain about my life, it's harsh, this is MMA fighting. We don't all get paid very much money, and I haven't, I had to step on a lot of people to get where I was going, and now it's coming back on me, and so now I'm just trying to roll with the punches, just like I do in the fight. I feel like I'm getting a little bit more respect than I used to. People aren't making such a joke out of me anymore, and it feels great.
And the final performance of the Stocktonian in Strikeforce happened in April 9th of 2011. By that time, Nate Diaz was already recognized as the local star of the fighting game because he was on a long winning streak, defended his welterweight championship, and always strived to get the finish inside the octagon. He didn't care about anything but progress and the next fight, as it was the only way he could make a living. And thus, by the spring, the organization put on another tournament with the main event between the Stocktonian and Paul Daley. If some of you didn't know, the British athlete was one of the most dangerous figures of that time. Absolutely nobody could restrain and take the power of his shots without consequences. So in the lead up to the event, many began to write Nick off, not seeing the way he can withstand Daley's onslaught and survive through it.
Just want to say that I'm feeling good, ready to fight. I hope to put on a great show for you guys Saturday, and I hope to represent my team well. Cesar Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and all my teammates, Nate Diaz, Gilbert Melendez, Jake Shields, Daniel Roberts, all these guys on my team here. I'm here fighting for you, and I'm gonna go out there and try to do it.
I expect Nate Diaz to fight. That's what he does. That's what he does best. Whether he's on his back, whether he's in top position, or whether he's boxing. He's good at what he does, so that I'm just prepared for a fight, and that's what I'm excited about. The fact that it's going to be a fight. There ain't going to be no lay and pray bitching out. We're going to be in a fight, and that's what I do best.
The expectations were getting higher by the day, while at the press conference, these guys were keeping themselves together and not acting recklessly. At the actual face-off, they already engaged in a furious brawl, boosting the interest in this fight even more.
I'm alright. I wasn't going to do this interview, but they told me I had to. So, I feel good. I'm ready to fight. And, I don't know. I don't have much to say. You know.
Something against me? Do you not like me, Nick?
I feel like you instigate fights quite a bit, but you know, that's
fights between the fighters.
Yeah, I mean maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
This performance is rightfully considered one of the best in the history of Strikeforce because the legendary Stocktonian Gangster demonstrated an unbelievable power of will and resistance. He managed to go through what nobody could before, get out of the storm, and finish Paul Daley via TKO at the end of the first round. Even Dana White himself and the Fertitta brothers appreciated this fight and shared their genuine impressions.
Holy shit! It was a good night. I'm a Strikeforce fan.
Yeah, if it were to go in my favor, this is what I said before, you know. So yeah, that's what I wasn't talking no shit from the start. That's just what I said would happen. If I win a fight, that's what's gonna happen, right? That's what happened. So you know, it's a done deal.
Hey, Nate. Well done, dude. Good fight, man. No worries, man. You're a good champion, man. I appreciate it.
By the way, there was a reason why Dana White and the bosses of the World's Best League attended this event and watched it in the front row. If you know what we mean, of course. Return to the UFC.
I think everybody knows Nick Diaz. I don't see Nick Diaz calling me up going, hey, listen, I'm sorry, give me the fight back. It's just not Nick Diaz.
And even if he did, it's too late now, right?
Yeah, it's definitely too late.
So George St. Pierre is back.
I'm holding another press conference again, and yeah.
Oh, these are fun, man.
Yeah, Nick Diaz is back on. Wait, he's not here again. Yeah, no, I'm done.
You said that he looked you in the eye and he lied to you. Can you ever take his word again, or is that trust gone?
I would never accept his word again. Never. And you know what's crazy? I've done business with his brother forever. You know, and his brother is a professional, does everything he says he's going to do. You know, he has his issues here and there where he doesn't call in for a media thing, you know, every once in a while, but I can live with that.
To figure out what happened with Dana White and why he said that he would never believe Nick Diaz and take his word, we have to move little by little. First of all, as we already said, the Stocktonian's stock grew significantly over time. He racked up a streak of 10 spectacular victories, the majority of which were earned by stoppages, conquered the Strikeforce Championship, which at the time was considered the second best MMA league after the UFC. And moreover, he continued to defend his belt, doing it more and more brutally and dynamically. The major promotion did not want to lose such a star. They quickly reached out to him after his win over Paul Daley and eventually got him to the organization. Or more so, by that moment, there were rumors and speculations about a star fight for the title, the Strikeforce champion Nick Diaz against the inimitable and great UFC champion George St. Pierre. Sounds like something grandiose, doesn't it? And the representatives of the World's Best League thought the exact same thing. The more tension from the fans, the more money there is to make. But it wasn't that simple.
A lot of people have been talking about GSP and Nick Diaz possibly being coaches. Besides that, is that fight a done deal? Is that something you want to see happen?
That fight is not a done deal, and I guarantee you that those two will not be coaches. Not even close. All the stuff that's out there about that fight and the meeting that we had here is all bullshit.
Yes, the rumours that the cocky Stocktonian and one of the greatest fighters in the sport could become coaches for another Ultimate Fighter season were there, but only for a short period of time. Later, there was a real movement in the direction that older Diaz could really fight for the UFC championship against GSP.
It means I just got to deal with him differently. I don't have to call Matt Hughes every 3 days. I don't have to call Rampage every 3 days. I don't have to talk to these guys, but I do with Nick, and that's cool. I can do that. I think that I can figure this thing out where I can work with Nick Diaz and we can make this happen.
There wasn't anything concrete, but the UFC president clearly hinted that he could indeed work with Nick Diaz. And how did we get from these encouraging comments to what you heard a couple of minutes ago? It's simple. All of you know the nature of the Stocktonian. He is an absolutely introverted person who doesn't like to answer questions and who doesn't know any other life outside of fights, brawls, conflicts, and other unpleasant crap. So when he was accepting the fights and not picking his opponents, he simply refused UFC's request to attend press conferences and interact with the media representatives. But it was half the problem. After that, Diaz basically effed him over, so to say, at first saying one thing and then doing something completely different.
Caesar called me and said, "You're going to have to talk to Nick. Nick has completely disrespected me. He snuck out my back door during my son's birthday party so that he didn't have to get on this flight. This, that, you're going to have to call him." I called Nick, I left him a message, then I texted him and Nick called me back. We had the conversation. He said, "I'll be on that flight." I landed in Minneapolis, Minnesota, got a text from him and said, "Won't be making that flight." I called him, left him a message, and he's never called me back since.
Dana White learned firsthand that working with Nick Diaz is not the most pleasant thing in this world. But anyway, he had worked with even more rebellious characters. Closer to the end of 2011, the World's Best League set the return of our hero for UFC 137. His opponent was the legendary veteran BJ Penn, and the fight was the main event of the evening.
Well, he's a real black belt in jiu-jitsu. And not that George isn't a real black belt, but, you know, BJ is really good at jiu-jitsu. I believe it's because he came originally from Ralph Gracie and Cesar Gracie. I know he made his debut the same day as my partner Steve Heath and David Terrell. I actually had that video on VHS when I was a kid. I used to watch it, so I saw BJ Penn fight before anybody. And that's because he comes from where I come from, and I believe that's why he's as good as he is.
They did bring me down an hour early. I don't know if that was a change of plans or if that was on account of me, you know. But I don't have any problem being here. I think it's great to be here. So, you know, I would have loved to be at the last press conference had I, you know, been able to make it. And, you know, I'm just ready to move forward.
I gotta win these fights. I don't think it matters what I do. I think I have to win. I love competition. It gets me right. You know, it makes everything work. I know who's in the sport, and they ain't done shit. So, not what I do. He's my favorite fighter. He's better than they are. He's better than everybody. I know where he came from. He came from my school. That's what as far as I'm concerned. He came from where I came from, and that's why he's good.
Our hero got the victory via unanimous decision. Nick Diaz made all possible efforts, dismantled his idol, and successfully extended his streak to 11 wins in a row.
I wasn't working out 100%. I wasn't feeling 100%. I was just doing everything. I wasn't leaving anything out. I just did everything that I normally do and I'm supposed to do, but I didn't do it with, I don't know how to say, like, I didn't go in there and feel good about it, and you know, I didn't really get into my games, like my strength games. I just, you know, just kept pushing through everything.
Not even working at the top of his abilities, the legendary Stocktonian still managed to deliver the fight of the night and beat another legend by a decision. The next quite expected step for Diaz's career was a title shot. The World's Best League didn't want to waste Nick's hype and tried to squeeze out of it everything they could. Initially, they wanted to put him against George St. Pierre. As we already mentioned earlier numerous times, however, the champion got injured not long before the UFC 143 event and was replaced by Carlos Condit. In these circumstances, they fought for the interim championship.
I think he's more of a dangerous fighter. You know, may not. Like you're more in danger of losing a decision to George St. Pierre. I think you're more in danger of losing your teeth if you're fighting Condit here.
Me and Carlos Condit are both ranked in the top 10, and I have been. I've always been ranked in the top 10 since I've been out here. So I plan to keep it that way. I don't think you're gonna get any real feelings out of any of these guys that are fighting me. I think they're just gonna say what these cameras want them to say and do what they want them, you know, pretty much do what they're expected to do.
Let's say straight away, Nick Diaz lost that fight by a unanimous decision in the conclusion of 25 minutes. He failed to conquer the UFC interim welterweight title.
But going back to the Diaz-Condit fight, so my point about missing things is I watched the fight at home. And when I watched the fight at home, I had a slightly different opinion. When I watched it live, I thought that Carlos Condit won it. And I thought going into the 5th round, I was like, wow, the way this worked, I was saying, you know, in the 4th round, I was like, Condit is winning this fight. And when I said that, I was a little bit out of school because on the scorecards, maybe necessarily wasn't winning it, in my head even. But there was a trend in round 3 and 4 where Condit was scoring way more than Diaz was. And that's why I was saying that Condit's winning this fight. Or Diaz, you know, I think that Diaz is losing this fight. I felt like it was moving away from him. And then Nick took his back in the 5th. And so you got to say, man, that's the biggest moment of the fight right there.
It was. And by the way, didn't he?
At first, there weren't any comments from Diaz regarding his defeat. Or more so, there were rumors constantly appearing on the internet about his desire to retire from professional sport. The subsequent suspension of the Stocktonian due to another failed test for marijuana only fed into the public speculations on that matter. However, the world's best league did not want to give up that easily. Matchmakers and the bosses of the league saw how big of a clash between Diaz and GSP could be, so they tried their best to settle things down, set Diaz on a positive tone, and give the fighting world this bout. In fact, it's understandable, but in our opinion, they didn't take the best route in terms of promoting this event. Why do you think Nick Diaz's persona drew attention? Why did the public develop such prejudiced opinions that both brothers are real hooligans and knuckleheads? Because of their taunts in the fights? Or maybe due to their intense stare-downs? Not at all. The thing is, in the UFC promotion, which at first presented Nick and then his brother Nate as goons who don't give a damn about order and completely dismiss their opponents. But it's not true. Let's not beat around the bush and just show you what Nick had to say at the press conference in the lead up to UFC 158 on March the 16th of 2013, where he was given an opportunity to contest the welterweight champion held by St. Pierre.
They like to make me look like the bad guy. George likes to say I remind him of George likes to say I remind him of the bullies that picked on him growing up or they had to deal with. You know, I'm gonna say like, how many times you had a gun to your head, George? How many times someone put a gun to your head? How many of your best friends been shot through the chest with a .45? Or how many of your best friends been stomped, put to sleep into a coma? And you know, we all had to deal with these things in life. Should I go? I mean, how many kids put gum in your hair growing up? Like, should I go further back? I mean, we have to deal with these things. You know, it's hard times for everybody, and a lot of times that's what makes us fighters. And if it wasn't for that, I hate everybody pulling the bully card. All bullies, I hate bullies. You know, I doubt he was ever a hopeless person. And you know, if it wasn't for what I went through, who knows if I would have made it in life? Who knows if I'd be who I am today? So, you know, I just had to live through it and work through it. But I don't go and point the finger and decide that people are the bully, like who, you know, tortured me as a child. I don't want anybody to see anybody hurt. I don't believe anybody out here, you know, working towards greatness deserves to be beat down, smashed in. I just don't. That's not how you know. The fans out there that, you know, they like violence. People like violence.
The Stocktonian gave a good fight to the prime GSP, but couldn't beat him and snatched the title. The win was given to George by a unanimous decision, and this once again made our hero consider retirement. At the post-fight press conference, the journalist asked him a question on that topic, and that's what Nick said.
I just feel like I fought everybody that I set out to fight. You know, like Johnny here, he's a new guy. You know, Jake's been around for a little while, but you know, I feel like I've taken care of everything that I wanted to do in the sport, and yeah, I just, you know, this is hard stuff. You know, I don't ever get time off. I've only had a year off one time, and it was a stressful year. I was, you know, pretty bad out of shape. I didn't win that fight. Nobody would like reassure me like, oh, they're gonna give you that fight. They're gonna give you that fight. You know, like I was just sitting around depressed the whole year off. But you know, like I could sit here and make a million excuses about, you know, why I wasn't ready for this fight. But
just the only reason why I'm here right now is, you know, I want a rematch. I think I can beat you. That's what I think. But you know, I think I may be a better matchup for Anderson Silva as well. But we'll see what happens.
At some time, it was still unclear what was happening with Nick and his career. The fighter himself did not say anything concrete and did not give us false hopes. We got the same response from the promotion. We know that matchmakers planned to put the Stocktonian against Michael Bisping. However, we didn't get to see this fight because Diaz declined this offer. After that, Dana White offered Nick a rematch with Carlos Condit, but our hero didn't really want to share the octagon with him either. He liked the idea of a rematch with George St. Pierre for the World Championship because it was the biggest and most beneficial fight for him from all standpoints. However, the World's Best League couldn't do that, provided Diaz's 2 decision losses in a row and the suspension for marijuana, with all the ultimatums regarding his interactions with the media also did not do him any favors. In the end, a so-called hiatus of the fighter from Stockton lasted 22 months. By the end of January of 2015, Nick Diaz returned to the main octagon to share it with the Brazilian Spider, Anderson Silva, at UFC 183.
You know, I was doing this way before it was cool, and you know, that's why I'm here today. And you know, so no matter, you know, everything just keeps adding on. You know, people recognition, and it just, you know, it's never ending really. I don't think we're gonna have to fight right now. People are still gonna be talking about my fights because I did, you know, I've been out fighting for a while and headlined a lot of events that people, you know, paid for it and showed up for it. You know, so they know who they're coming to see nowadays.
Yeah, people like to call it special fights. You can call it that. I had already voiced what I thought about fighting the best fighter pound for pound in the world, what they call it, for a long time. He said it, you know, he said it the other day. He said, you know, I've had the good fights in the UFC. I feel the same way about him. You know, that's why I give him mutual respect. And people take me the wrong way a lot of times. They think that I'm, you know, the one to you know, like stage an act or you know, people call me, say I'm cocky or something like this. Is completely different. And you know, I'm always respectful towards anybody, even my opponent.
This fight was extremely exciting due to the action behind the scenes. But to get to that, we have to mention the fact that the Stocktonian lost his fight by a unanimous decision, which later was overturned to a no contest.
You know, I think I could have won that fight. I think I did win that fight, but like same with a lot of fights. But I get real confused on how to win a fight out here initially, and then nowadays, you know, you can see on when you watch that they're counting strikes and doing all that stuff. So I don't know what was what until I see it. I don't know how many punches were thrown, landed, or what. But I just know that. You know, I could see this guy's punches. He didn't, you know, I don't think he could have finished me. I think if anybody was going to finish anybody, it was going to be me finishing him. But the thing is like, I just, you know, the only way he's going to do a finish on me is if I come in doing something stupid, so.
And now, let's get to the most interesting part. Initially, in the lead up to Nick Diaz's return into the fight game, there was information that he signed the contract with the UFC for at least 3 bouts. After the defeat against the Brazilian, the league stated that the Stocktonian failed another test for marijuana metabolites, while the Brazilian tested positive for, counted up, drostanolone, androsterone, oxazepam, and temazepam, which was literally doping. After long examinations, the Spiders team was fined 30% of his purse and suspended for a year. And by September, they went after our hero, and initially his sentence was a lot worse. The Nevada State Athletic Commission was planning to suspend Diaz for 5 years and make him pay $165,000.
You know, and these guys, the Diaz brothers, one thing you got to say about them is these fucking dudes take care of their bodies.
Yes.
They eat healthy as fuck. Nick's always eating all organic food. He eats real healthy. He's constantly in shape, constantly running. If this guy's smoking pot, he's not doing meth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
he's taking care of his body.
Absolutely.
It's not like he's doing steroids. It's not like he's doing something that's making him freakishly fast or ridiculously strong.
It's actually the complete opposite.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is it's so frustrating, man, that these clowns have any power over people like you.
Right.
It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy that people like you need these fools that have never been punched in the face, they've never been strangled, they've never fought a day in their life, and they're the ones that get to decide what happens to you. They're the ones who get to tell Nick Diaz he has to sit out for 5 years.
Only thanks to his appeals and collaboration was his sentence reduced to 18 months of suspension and 100,000 Benjamins. Since then, the UFC has tried to reach out to our hero multiple times and negotiate another return to the sport, especially after his brother Nate became a superstar and sparked another wave of popularity for the Diaz surname. But all these offers did not interest Nick at all, and his layoff was so long that it slightly changed the previous condition of the Stocktonian, both mentally and physically.
But I don't want to deal with that though, and I don't need to, but like, you know, my brother asked me to say what I have to say, so I said what I say. I'm like, what? I'm like, you, and that's what I'm saying. I said, no disrespect, but I'm like, you know, I'm like, you know, game recognized game. I'm like, you know what you need to do. Like, this ain't no up to no UFC. We've seen that in the past already. And I don't need to do anything more than what I've already done here. Come out here and do the most to, oh no, what the f am I gonna say? Hopefully I didn't, you know, use too many F-bombs and act like some thug life sitting here next to Ariel with this, you know, type of way, and me with me. You know, I don't know what I don't know. It's like I don't know what to tell you, people. I'm sorry. I'm like.
Such a spontaneous disappearance of Nick Diaz from the radars lasted rather long. And after these interviews, people began to lose hope that the legendary warrior would return to the octagon. But he managed to surprise us. On September the 25th of 2021, by some miracle, the World's Best League gave us a rematch between the Stockton's Beast and Robbie Lawler, more than 17 years after their first fight.
It is. It is. All the people around me and all the money and the sponsors and all that, they won't let me get away from fighting, you know. They just, there's a lot, you know, there's things I could do, but that's not gonna work out, you know. I might as well just go and take my punches and.
Yeah, definitely want to do this more often. I mean, especially if I get my ass whooped. If I get my ass whooped, I'm gonna come back right away. If I get my ass whooped, I come right back.
In fact, Nick himself predicted his future in these two lines. He lost to Robbie Lawler via TKO in the 3rd round. There's little good about it, but the only positive thing that we can highlight is how he was greeted by the crowd. With what warmth, support and love they upheld the legendary Stocktonian veteran after his defeat.
No excuses, you know, I had to come in and he was in great shape. I'm glad I knew I was leaking here, so I didn't want to make too much of a mess. But I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to put on a little show for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Stockton bad boy, Nick Diaz.
Epilogue.
Looking at doing this next year, if any. I'm not looking at doing nothing but high-profile fights. Anybody that they try to tell you is the best fighter in the world right now at 170, 185, we don't know that. We don't know that now. I'm pretty sure it's me. I'm pretty damn confident that it's me. Here they got me over here. I can't even go. I can't even go. My brother's got a fight coming up. My brother's. Are you going to tell me I can't even go and corner my brother where he goes into this ain't a sport. This is war. This is warfare. This is a war game. He's going in there. He's going in there to fight for his life. I can't even go stand next to him. They you know, deprive me of not just money now, but the right to stand up for not only what I believe in, but for my little brother. I can't even go and help my little brother. And it's like, you know, I'm like, y'all can get knocked the f out.
Unfortunately, this whole situation with Nick Diaz's suspensions, the further investigation and examination led to what you can see today. However, it's not the only thing that played a major role in the future life of the legendary Stocktonian. As we were saying throughout this film, our hero was making independent decisions for his entire life. He had to mature too early and take responsibility for future existence, not only in terms of personal motives, but also about taking care of the whole Diaz family. That's why he got into the fighting sport at such a young age, and the decision to step away from fights, take a rest, and put sights on the sphere of business came to him after the success of his brother. After Nate beat Conor McGregor and became the biggest star of the world's best league, both brothers didn't need to fight for money anymore. They set themselves for life. That's why we haven't seen Nick inside the octagon for some many years, and when we have, we were disappointed, with all due respect. Because throughout his entire path in the mixed martial arts, the older Stocktonian always distinguished himself from others with his constant desire to grow and get better. He trained and honed his mastery in the gym every day because he knew that nobody was going to save him in this life but himself. Only hard work and continuous sacrifices could help him to become somebody and not allow his brother Nate and other family members down in the slump. The great story of the Diaz brothers began with Nick taking responsibility for making decisions at a very young age and following this code till the very end of his career. He is a great fighter, though misunderstood by many people. He went through a lot of trials on his way, but with his example, he once again proved that regardless of your past, hard work and dedication to the craft that you love can help you get out of the social trench you live in. Nick Diaz is a legend of the sport that made a huge contribution in its development. He never caved into the system, oftentimes opposing it. He simply trained and performed exactly what the mixed martial arts representatives is supposed to do. But his return to the UFC happened at such a period of change when this industry began to demand more. That's why they started to push this narrative of him being the bad guy who doesn't respect anybody and shows middle fingers both in the octagon and outside of it. In reality, this man is a lot deeper than it seems. He never knew and saw kindness and tenderness in his life, only workouts by the side of tough guys that surrounded him from early childhood. And outside of the gym, this man saw hooligans who always tried to hurt, have a conflict, or humiliate him. Right now, Stockton, California sounds cool because the reputation of the Diaz brothers gave this place a special charm. But when Nick was growing up, there wasn't anything good. Bandits, robberies, murders, drugs, unemployment, poverty, the real ghetto. In fact, there is nothing else to add. You know everything yourself. If we see good old Nick in the main octagon ever again, then we have to honor the mature warrior with our attention, as he dedicated the bigger part of his life developing the industry we're interested in today.
If you ask me something stupid, then I'm gonna answer it with something stupid. And if I hear myself talk something stupid and I'm really pissed off, depressed, and bent out of shape about it, I might throw a fucking really serious fit for no fucking reason.
Since all of this, I looked on YouTube and I've seen some videos of him because I haven't seen him since he was a kid. He's the exact same. He doesn't make eye contact. He talks very slow and deliberate. Takes a breath between words. I mean, when I saw him on that video, he was the exact same kid.
It's also like they want that big payday, you know, especially now, and they should get that big payday. But goddamn, if I was the UFC,
you pay them?
Yeah, I think those guys are superstars.